Okay.
Okay.
All right.
We're back.
Okay, so okay, fine.
All right, so I think he wants to finish his presentation. But we did go through these 4 questions when we met with them, and we do have answers to them. And we also informed them that this is a man-made structure, this inlet, but the reason it was placed there is historically that's where it was in the 1800s.
All right, thank you. So, is this set up and ready to go?
So this is an aerial view. There's the inlet. And you might note the degree of shoaling that we've been talking about in the front of the inlet. And as the harbor master expressed, that just was recently dredged. And then this is that long expanse of beach where all the erosion is occurring. Here's the former road and bridge. When was this? This was done last Saturday. 10:30, almost high tide. And then this is the growings that I'm talking about further west, where the beach seems to be maintained compared to what we just looked at.
Are you going all the way to Green Pond?
We're going almost to Green Pond. And you'd like to try to speed it up.
Okay. Who did the drone?
Look at the revetment, no beach in front of it.
I was supposed to go over people's property. I was supposed to go over other people's property.
Oh,
Over what? I was supposed to go over other people's property.
So there it shows Green Pond. And we live in a beautiful part of the world here. That's why we love it so much and we want to keep it.
What's the point of this video?
Mark, you're not on the quorum.
And there are 2 more points I want to make. So that, again, oops, all right, yeah, sorry about that.
Pull a little triangle on that yellowish bar, all the way to the right. You can pull it
Here?
back to where you want it.
The triangle at the far right of the yellow bar.
Yeah,
You can pull that back
You
a
can pull
little
that back, you can pull it where you want.
Okay. Maybe it was raised, that's where I want to be.
I do a lot of videos in my case. That's why I did do this a lot.
I think I'm getting dizzy.
I've almost got it, okay. All right.
All right, he's ready to make his point.
Here we are. We're coming into, back to the beach, to Minot Beach, leaving the growings on the west. And again, this is our area where there's been so much loss of beach. And here's the east side where it's been more stable. Our concern is widening this inlet. What effect is it going to have down here where we are and all our friends here in Minot? And as we come in here, this is the shoaling, which is just enormous. And if you look at the water as it comes in, it goes to the right and it flows to our property. It goes to the left, and the shoaling prevents the flow of water. And that's what we've talked about. Peter Anicelli's exactly right. If this isn't maintained, I don't see how it can succeed. And if there's not a master plan dredging this, we're just going to make a wider inlet, more water's coming in, And this sand is the sand that we want replenishing our beaches, all the way down to Minot. And if you look in here, they've armored this because it's wearing away. And look how close it is to the road here. There's actual current flow, and if you look closely, you can see it because it's coming in right during this video. And it's eroding here around my property. This pond, if you look historically at the images, it's getting bigger and bigger. So these are our concerns. Meeting with Virginia and her team, and this shows that water flowing in. Okay, and it's a calm, calm morning, beautiful day. On a stormy day, it has an effect. It erodes here. So our concern obviously is more water in this pond. What's it going to do to this property and all these properties up the peninsula? And I don't, unfortunately, it's not my computer. I don't know how, I can normally speed this up to be done in no time. It'd be interesting. It's going to go up the pond and then come back, and you'll see a big view of the pond if you're still interested in seeing it. But those are my key points that I wanted to make. Plus, I like playing with this laser.
Thank you.
So you can leave it running while you're talking.
Why don't we do that?
Can I at
Yes,
least try to
please go
address a
ahead.
few of these? We did meet earlier, and I think we talked about a lot of these issues. The first one, which I don't think you had on your list, at least for now, but you did mention earlier, was the issue about instead of moving the inlet 40 feet to the east, moving 40 feet to the west. We went through a pretty lengthy NEPA process and negotiation through this. And one of the concerns of natural heritage was the piping plover habitat on the west side. And so that's the main reason, just reviewing the plans, there is also a small piece of salt marsh on that side as well, on the inside. So there are some, basically it's a resource impact issue that is the reason why we went the way we went. But we, at least from our standpoint, we don't see any, that's going to change anything on the downrift beach to any real extent. I was asked the question about, does the modeling show any increase in flooding and erosion? We already talked about the flooding, but certainly we do not see any issue with erosion or flooding increase at the property in question, or actually anywhere in the pond. How is this going to affect littoral drift? Certainly, obviously, that's an issue. We do know the currents are going to drop, so the shoals are going to be basically closer at both ends rather than being pushed way up into the pond and pushed way offshore with that bar structure. Because the currents are going to be less, they're going to be actually a little bit closer in to the mouth of the inlet at both ends. But that actually is advantageous for sediment trying to bypass the inlet. We're also talking about that jetty extension of about 25 feet, which is going to make that offset more, so that that bar is basically going to be contiguous from basically the tip of that jetty going to the east, so that you're going to have, that's the area that's going to be dredged, is probably right off the tips of that jetty, and that's going to be the bar where the bar gets set up. But again, it's in shallower water, so that actually allows better natural bypassing by wave action, from the west side. The one thing I will say right now, the west side is very denuded of sediment. We know it's eroded way back, and if assuming the town can move forward with trying to stabilize that beach, one of the things would be to actually make that beach a bit wider on that side, and whether it needs some structural improvements or not, we'd have to see. But again, that there's kind of a divot. Sorry, I'm getting dizzy. There's kind of a divot in that beach right now, so it really is offset. So one of the things we're trying to do is try to make that system so it works better than the way it is now as far as littoral drift. The next, there's a mean high water question.
Would the town be available for purchase?
Oh,
And
above,
was it
okay.
successful anywhere else?
Okay, so that's two questions. Has something like this been tried before, this non-traditional solution to nitrogen management? And there's been a very successful one in Muddy Creek. It's on the border of Harwich and Chatham. It's been recently completed. There was an old 3-foot culvert, if you're on Route 28 going down towards Pleasant Bay, that is now a bridge that's about 23 feet wide. There's been a tremendous lowering of nitrogen And both towns teamed up together, and the state helped, and that's part of their TMDL there, is to, as an improvement. And Parker's River in Harwich is now, or in Yarmouth is now proposed on Route 28. So that's going to be another one. It's not done yet, but it is pretty much through the permitting process at this point. So it's a pretty standard thing to do. And the question came up, we actually are going to be generating more from the dredging project itself. We're going to be generating more sediment than we can use. And obviously trucking it away is expensive, but the town certainly can do that and use that to nourish other beaches. One of the things that came up is that would there be the possibility of homeowner getting that material. And what we had indicated, what's happened in other projects by the county dredge, is that has been allowed if the homeowner pays for the material. So we had said that could be something that could be worked out, but again, that's certainly something. But certainly they would have to have a permit for their nourishment. So but that's a separate issue. But I think as well as we just wanted to point out that that's certainly not something that we would prohibit, and certainly might save the town some money. So.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
I think it seems that we are ready to wrap this up. Does the board feel that they have the information that they need?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions about the bridge proper.
Okay.
Anybody want to address the bridge questions?
Do you want me to shut this off now?
Bridge questions?
The bridge itself, yeah.
I don't know, it depends on what the question is.
Yeah.
How's that?
What's the life expectancy of the new bridge?
Oh, jeez. 50 years.
75
Yeah, I
years.
believe it's 50 to 75 years is the way that it's rated.
And I think we talked about this last time. I'm going to ask you to remind me, what was the rationale for not raising the roadbed and/or the bridge proper?
The rationale, the original rationale came from, again, discussions the last time the community, I think Eric Turkington had been involved with the Water Quality Management Committee. But really what it came down to was the issue that we're not trying to encourage navigation in the system, we're trying to keep it navigation free. And so it was a combination of kind of the community doesn't want the visual effect, but also that we wanted to restrict navigation going into the pond.
And there was one other aspect. If the bridge is raised, because the area is very low to either side of the bridge, you would have to change the approaches, and that would then affect more resource, both salt marsh and then also potentially the shellfish. So raising the bridge generated a whole new group of issues.
Do you have minimal clearance between the mean high water and the bottom of the bridge?
Minimal clearance?
Low clearance.
It's low clearance, but it's not abnormally low. Again, we're only looking at a 1.5 tide range, so we don't have an incredible amount. But right now, I guess probably you go through it as a boater. The clearance is really not very high at all. You have a few feet, basically, is what you're looking at. The top of the road the top of the road level is going to be right about 6 feet mean sea level. So you're really looking at mean sea level. You're only looking at probably 2.5 feet under the bridge.
Right, Courtney, is there anything for you?
I'm not entirely convinced about the not raising the bridge, and but
mentioned that
I'm not. It's too late to go there again. I raised my concerns about it the last time, and I haven't been convinced that your position is right. I understand about the approaches, but there are ways to deal with the approaches so you don't fill and create another barrier. You just elevate it. And as far as the navigation, I appreciate that. But you think outside the box. There are ways to address the navigation thing, because you can create a fatter bridge, if you will, that has the same clearances but gets it up out of the thing. We're talking about coastal resiliency and so on. My other concern, in a broader sense, is I think most everyone in this room accepts the fact that we're faced with global warming and rising sea levels. And are we ending up in a situation where all of this becomes an interesting academic exercise anyway?
I know, but I can just speak to something. The one thing I would like to point out, one of the things that goes with this project and the Minot Beach project itself, right now we have a roadway that's very low along that entire stretch of shoreline and so really what we're trying to do is trying to make this compatible and contiguous with that. Once certain things start going, the whole road's toast. So there's no point in trying to make one portion of it high at the expense of everywhere else. I mean, we can slowly work at it, but it's a tough thing to do. So I just.
Yeah. Well, it may be a question of timing because the town is, considering what we need to do in terms of coastal resiliency. So, there may be a decision in the not too distant future that we'd like to raise things. It's just, it's just the way things are. Steve, did you have anything else?
I have nothing else.
All right. So we could entertain a motion.
We have a motion and
We
we have a
have a
second.
motion. All right. So all those in favor of closing the hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you all. So we will be deliberating and voting.
Thank you very much. And I just wanted to add that I do have to thank Virginia and her team. They're really terrific helping us with our concerns.
Okay, that's much appreciated.
Thank you.
And our
Glad
concerns.
I'm glad it wasn't substitute because the hearing's closed.
I read your minutes.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
It was apparent. Oh, motion for adjournment?
Yeah, I need a second. I've got to. Second. All right, all those in favor say aye.